Jake Morrison checked the fuel readings one more time. The numbers looked good. His cargo ship, the Iron Will, was making steady progress through deep space. Next to him, his co-pilot Ben Carter was eating a sandwich and humming an old song. "We should reach Kepler Station in 6 hours," Ben said between bites. "Think they'll have real coffee there?" Jake smiled. "The kind that doesn't taste like motor oil?" "Probably not." The Iron Will wasn't much to look at. She was old, scratched, and made strange noises when she turned, but she was reliable. Jake had been flying cargo runs for 8 years, and this ship had never let him down. Today they were carrying medical supplies to the frontier colonies. Important stuff that could save lives. Ben finished his sandwich and leaned back in his chair. "You know what I miss most about Earth?" "What?" "Rain. Real rain, not the recycled water they spray in the space stations." Jake nodded. He missed rain too, and the smell of grass after a storm, and his sister's cooking. But space was where the work was, and work paid the bills. The proximity alarm started beeping. Jake sat up straight and checked the screens. 3 ships were coming toward them fast. Very fast. "Ben, take a look at this." Ben leaned over and frowned. "Those aren't in the shipping database." "What kind of ships are they?" Jake had never seen anything like them. They were long and thin like silver needles. They moved in perfect formation, turning and spinning in ways that didn't seem possible. No human ship could move like that. "Try to contact them," Jake said. His mouth felt dry. Ben worked the radio controls. "Unknown vessels, this is cargo ship Iron Will. Please identify yourselves." No answer. The 3 ships were getting closer. Jake could see them clearly now on the main screen. They were beautiful in a scary way. Their hulls seemed to glow with soft blue light. Strange symbols moved across their surfaces like living tattoos. "Jake." Ben's voice was tight with worry. "I'm picking up weapon signatures." Jake's hands moved to the controls without thinking. After 6 years in the Colonial Defense Force, some habits never died. "Power up the shields. Charge the defensive guns." The Iron Will wasn't a warship. She had basic shields and 2 small guns, just enough to scare off pirates. Against whatever these things were, it might not be enough. The alien ship split up. One stayed in front while the other 2 moved to circle around. It was a classic attack pattern. Jake had seen it before, but never from ships that looked like this. "Iron Will, you will stop your engines," a voice said over the radio. The words were clear, but the voice was wrong. It sounded like music mixed with wind chimes. "Beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Who are you?" Jake transmitted back. "What do you want?" "You will stop your engines now." Ben looked at Jake. "What do we do?" Jake thought fast. They were too far from any station to call for help. The alien ships were faster and better armed, but the Iron Will had one advantage. She was tough. "Hold on," Jake said. He pushed the engines to full power and turned hard to the left. The alien ships moved to follow, but Jake was already changing direction again. He flew the Iron Will like a fighter, using every trick he'd learned in the war. The old cargo ship groaned and shook, but she held together. Green energy beams shot past the cockpit window. The aliens were firing, but they seemed to be trying not to hit them directly. "Warning shots. They want us alive," Jake said. "That's not very comforting," Ben replied. Jake dove toward a small asteroid field. If he could get the Iron Will hidden among the rocks, maybe they could wait for the aliens to leave. It was a long shot, but it was all he had. The asteroid field was thick with spinning rocks and metal debris. Jake flew between them, using the ship's sensors to avoid collisions. Behind them, the alien ships followed easily. They moved through the dangerous field like it was empty space. "Jake, look at this." Ben was staring at his screen. "They're not just following us. They're hurting us." Ben was right. Every time Jake tried to turn toward open space, one of the alien ships would appear to block his path. They were being pushed deeper into the asteroid field, toward something. Then Jake saw it. Hidden behind a large asteroid was a 4th ship. This one was huge, easily 10 times the size of the Iron Will. It looked like a crystal palace floating in space, all curves and spires that caught the starlight. "Oh no," Ben whispered. The large ship opened like a flower. Inside was a landing bay filled with golden light. The 3 smaller ships pushed the Iron Will toward it. Jake tried one last desperate move. He fired the ship's guns at the nearest alien vessel and pushed the engines beyond their safety limits. For a moment, it looked like they might break free. Then something hit them. Not weapons fire, but some kind of energy field. The Iron Will's engines died. The lights went out. Even the gravity stopped working. Jake and Ben floated in their seats as their ship was pulled into the alien vessel. The landing bay doors closed behind them with a sound like singing crystal. Jake. Ben's voice was barely a whisper. What's going to happen to us? Before Jake could answer, something moved in the golden light outside their window. Figures in flowing robes were approaching the iron will. They moved like they were dancing, even in the zero gravity. Then the figures stopped. They seemed to be looking directly at Jake through the cockpit window. Even though he couldn't see their faces, he could feel their attention like a weight on his chest. One of them raised what might have been a hand. Jake felt a strange tingling in his mind, like someone trying to speak to him without words. The last thing he remembered was Ben reaching for his weapon, and then everything went dark. When Jake woke up, Ben was gone, and he was alone in a room that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. Jake woke up on the softest bed he had ever felt. The room around him looked like something from a dream. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that glowed with warm light. Strange plants with silver leaves grew from the floor and ceiling. The air smelled like flowers and rain. He sat up slowly, expecting to feel dizzy or sick. Instead, he felt better than he had in years. Whatever the aliens had done to him, it hadn't hurt. Ben, he called out. His voice echoed strangely in the crystal room. No answer. Jake got to his feet and looked around. The room was beautiful, but it was still a prison. There was only one door, and when he tried to open it, nothing happened. The walls were smooth crystal with no visible controls or switches. Near the bed was a table with food. At least Jake hoped it was food. The plates held things that looked like fruit, but they were colors he had never seen before. Blue apples, purple grapes that glowed like tiny stars, bread that seemed to be made of gold. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since before the attack. But could he trust alien food? A soft sound made him turn around. Part of the crystal wall was becoming transparent. Through it, Jake could see another room, and in that room was the most amazing sight he had ever seen. She was tall, maybe 8 feet, with skin that looked like it was made of moonlight. 4 arms moved gracefully as she worked at something Jake couldn't see clearly. Her face was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, like staring at a sunset. Long silver hair floated around her head as if she was underwater. This had to be their queen. Jake moved closer to the crystal wall. As he did, the alien queen looked up. Their eyes met through the transparent barrier. Her eyes were ancient, older than anything Jake had ever seen. They held sadness that seemed to go on forever. When she looked at him, Jake felt like she could see right through him, down to his soul. The queen stood and walked toward the wall. When she was close enough to touch it, she placed one hand against the crystal. Jake found himself doing the same thing, putting his palm against the wall where hers was. The crystal became warm under his touch. Then she spoke, and Jake almost fell over in shock. Hello? Jake Morrison. Her voice was like music, but she was speaking perfect English. I am sorry about your friend. His death was not planned. Ben is dead? Jake's voice cracked. You killed Ben? Your friend tried to fight when my people came to bring you here. He fired his weapon. My guards acted to protect themselves. I am truly sorry. Jake felt tears on his face. Ben had been a good man. A good friend. He didn't deserve to die in some alien ship far from home. Why? Jake asked. Why did you take us? What do you want? The queen's 4 hands moved in complex patterns. The crystal wall began to change, showing pictures like a movie screen. Jake saw his own ship, the Iron Will, floating in the alien landing bay. We have been watching your kind for a very long time, the queen said. Longer than you can imagine. We know about your wars, your struggles, your growth as a species. The pictures changed. Now Jake was looking at Earth from space. The blue and green world looked so small and peaceful. You call yourselves human, the queen continued. We call you something else. The word does not translate well into your language. The closest meaning would be, the ones who survive everything. I don't understand. The queen waved another hand and the pictures changed again. Now Jake was seeing scenes of human history. But these weren't the pictures from his school books. These showed humans fighting impossible battles against nature itself. Ice ages that should have killed every living thing. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun for years. Asteroid impacts that ended entire species. Plagues that killed most of the world. And through it all, humans kept surviving. Not just surviving, but growing stronger. Every other species in the galaxy evolved on gentle worlds, the Queen explained. Worlds with stable weather, few natural disasters, plenty of food. Your Earth is what we call a death world. It should not be able to support intelligent life. Jake watched the pictures with growing amazement. He was seeing his own species as the aliens saw them. Humans weren't the normal ones. They were the exception. The impossible survivors. Most species take 1,000,000 years to develop space travel, the Queen said. Your people did it in 10,000. Most species explore space slowly, carefully. Your people scattered across the galaxy like an explosion. We're explorers, Jake said. We want to see what's out there. The Queen's expression grew sad. That is not how it looks to us. To us, it looks like invasion. A hungry species spreading out to devour everything in its path. The pictures changed again. Now Jake was seeing human colonies on distant worlds. But through alien eyes, they looked different. The colonists weren't brave pioneers. They looked like conquering armies. Every human success looked like a threat. Your people don't just adapt to new worlds, the Queen said. You change them. You take dead rocks and make them into gardens. You take hostile environments and make them into homes. This is not normal. This is terrifying, Jake began to understand. Humans thought of themselves as underdogs, struggling to survive in a hostile universe. But to the aliens, humans were the monsters, the unstoppable force that consumed everything in its path. Is that why you captured me? Jake asked. To study the enemy? The Queen was quiet for a long moment. Her ancient eyes seemed to look right through him. No, she said finally. I captured you because my people are afraid. The great powers of the galaxy are meeting to decide what to do about humanity. Some want to strike first before you become too strong. Others want to try to contain you. A few think we should try to communicate. And what do you think? The Queen moved closer to the crystal wall. Her face was only inches from Jake's now, separated by the transparent barrier. I think, she said softly, that we are all going to die unless we find another way. Your people, my people, everyone. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? But before the Queen could answer, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. The crystal wall became opaque again, hiding the Queen from view. Jake was alone again, but now he understood that he wasn't just a prisoner. He was a witness to something much bigger and more dangerous than he had ever imagined. Somewhere in the galaxy, other aliens were deciding the fate of humanity. And Jake Morrison, cargo pilot from Earth, might be the only person who could stop a war that would destroy everything he had ever known. The alarms stopped as suddenly as they had started. Jake waited in his crystal room, wondering what was happening outside. Hours passed, or maybe days. It was hard to tell time in a place with no windows and light that never changed. Finally, the door opened. 2 alien guards floated into the room. They moved like dancers, their robes flowing around them. Jake couldn't see their faces under their hoods, but he could feel them watching him. The Queen will see you now, one of them said. The voice was like wind through trees. They led Jake through corridors that looked like the inside of a giant seashell. The walls curved and spiraled, covered in patterns that seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at them. Other aliens they passed stopped what they were doing to stare at Jake. He could feel their fear and curiosity. The throne room was the size of a cathedral. The ceiling stretched up so high that Jake couldn't see where it ended. Thousands of crystal formations hung down like frozen waterfalls, each one glowing with soft light. The floor was made of something that looked like black glass, so smooth that Jake could see his reflection perfectly. At the center of it all sat the Queen. Her throne was carved from a single piece of white stone that seemed to glow from within. She looked even more impressive here than she had through the crystal wall. Her forearms were decorated with jewelry that sparkled like captured starlight. Her silver hair moved in patterns that defied gravity, but her eyes still held that deep sadness. Come closer, Jake Morrison, she said. Jake walked across the glass floor. His footsteps echoed in the vast space. As he got closer, he could see that the Queen wasn't alone. Dozens of other aliens stood around her throne, all wearing different colored robes. They watched Jake with a mixture of fear and fascination. These are my advisors, the Queen said. They have been debating what to do with you for 3 days. 3 days? Jake stopped walking. I've been unconscious for 3 days? Time works differently here than on your ship. Your body needed time to adjust to our environment. The Queen gestured with one of her hands, but that is not important now. What is important is what I am about to show you. The air above the throne began to shimmer. Images appeared floating in space like holograms. Jake found himself looking at a star map unlike anything he had ever seen. Thousands of systems connected by glowing lines, the entire galaxy spread out before him. "This is the Watcher's Archive," the Queen explained. "For 50,000 years, the elder races have recorded everything that happens in our galaxy. Every species that rises to intelligence. Every civilization that reaches the stars. Every war, every peace, every extinction." Jake stared at the map in amazement. "How many species are there?" "Currently? About 40,000. In the past, there have been many more." The Queen waved another hand and parts of the map turned red. "These are the dead ones. Species that destroyed themselves or were destroyed by others. And humans." A small yellow dot appeared on the edge of the map. It was tiny compared to the vast galactic civilizations around it. "This is where your people started," the Queen said. "A small violent world in the outer rim. For most of galactic history, no one paid attention to your system. It was too far away, too dangerous to reach." The image zoomed in on human space. Jake could see Earth and the colonial worlds his people had settled. It looked so small and fragile. Then, 50 years ago, everything changed. The map began to move, showing time passing. Jake watched as human colonies spread outward from Earth like drops of ink in water, slowly at first, then faster and faster. "Most species take thousands of years to colonize their local star group," the Queen said. "Your people did it in 50. Most species never leave their home systems. Your people are already reaching toward the galactic core." Jake felt a strange pride. Humanity was doing something special, something other species couldn't do. But the Queen's next words chilled him. The Watchers became concerned. "They sent scout ships to observe your expansion. What they found terrified them." The images changed. Now Jake was seeing human colonies, but not the way he remembered them from the news reports. These were alien recordings taken in secret. He watched human settlers on a world called New Texas dealing with massive earthquakes that should have killed everyone. Instead of abandoning the colony, they rebuilt their cities to move with the ground. Within 10 years, they had turned a deadly world into a thriving home. He saw the miners on Asteroid Base 7 continue working, even after their life support systems failed. They survived by sharing air and eating emergency rations for 6 months, while they repaired their equipment. Any other species would have died in weeks. He watched the colonists of Haven World fight off an attack by space pirates using nothing but mining equipment and farming tools. The pirates had advanced weapons and military training. "The humans won anyway, do you see?" the Queen asked. "Your people don't just survive impossible situations. You turn them into advantages. You take hostile worlds and make them better than your original home." Jake watched more recordings. Humans adapting to poisonous atmospheres. Humans thriving in gravity that should have crushed them. Humans rebuilding after disasters that should have ended their civilizations. Other species see this and become afraid. The Queen continued. "They ask themselves, if humans can survive anything, what will they do to us if we get in their way?" The star map reappeared, but now it looked different. The human colonies were surrounded by empty space. No alien civilizations anywhere near them. "The great powers of the galaxy made a decision," the Queen said. "They created a buffer zone around human space. Any species that gets too close to your expansion is relocated. Any trade route that might bring you into contact with the galactic community is closed." Jake felt sick. "You've been isolating us." "Yes. For 50 years, the galaxy has been hiding from humanity. But why didn't you just talk to us? We're not monsters. We're explorers, scientists, traders. We want to learn about other species." The Queen's expression grew even sadder, because the last time the galaxy encountered a species like yours, half of all intelligent life was destroyed. The star map changed again. Now Jake was looking at the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago. Large sections of it were gray and empty. "They called themselves the Harvesters," the Queen said. "Like humans, they evolved on a death world. Like humans, they were impossibly adaptable and aggressive. They spread across the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. It took a war that lasted 10,000 years to stop them." Jake stared at the empty sections of the map, entire spiral arms of the galaxy, lifeless and dark. The elder races swore they would never let another species like the Harvesters rise to power. When they found your people, they saw the same patterns, the same unstoppable expansion, the same ability to survive anything. So you decided we were guilty before we even knew you existed. Some did. Others argued for patience, for study, for careful contact. The debate has been going on for 50 years. The queen stood from her throne, her full height making her seem like a goddess. But now the debate is ending. The Galactic Council has made their decision. Jake felt his heart stop. What decision? The queen looked at him with those ancient, sad eyes. In 6 months, a combined fleet of 12 species will attack your colonies. They call it the final containment. The plan is to destroy all human settlements beyond your home system, then establish a permanent blockade around Earth. Jake couldn't breathe. Millions of human colonists. Entire worlds full of people who had no idea what was coming. How many will die? He whispered. According to their calculations, approximately 40 million humans. The throne room was completely silent. Jake could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. Why are you telling me this? He asked. The queen stepped down from her throne and walked toward him. Her 4 hands moved in graceful patterns as she spoke. Because I believe there might be another way, a path that doesn't lead to war and death. She stopped in front of Jake, looking down at him with hope and desperation in her ancient eyes. But I need your help to find it. The queen led Jake to her private chambers, away from the advisors and guards. The room was smaller than the throne hall, but even more beautiful. Gardens of crystal flowers grew from the walls, and a waterfall of liquid light fell from the ceiling into a pool that reflected stars. Sit, the queen said, gesturing to cushions beside the pool. What I must show you now will be difficult to understand. Jake sat down, his mind still reeling from what he had learned. 40 million people. The number kept spinning in his head like a broken record. The queen waved her hand, and the air above the pool began to show new images. These weren't recordings from the archive. They were happening right now in real time. The galactic fleet is already gathering, she said. Jake watched in horror as massive alien warships assembled in empty space, ships the size of cities bristling with weapons he couldn't even imagine. There were thousands of them, representing species he had never heard of. Each ship can destroy a planet, the queen explained. The combined fleet could turn your entire colonial region into dust. How do you know all this? Because my people built many of those ships. We were once the greatest military power in the galaxy. The queen's voice carried old pain. Before we learned to fear your kind, the images changed, showing Jake more scenes of the preparing fleet. Alien soldiers training for the attack, weapons being loaded, battle plans being drawn up. They call it Operation Silent Dawn, the queen said. The plan is simple. Strike every human colony at the same time. No warnings, no time to fight back or escape. Complete destruction within hours. Jake felt sick. And then what? They'll come for Earth? No. Earth will be left alone, but surrounded. Your people will be trapped on one world forever, prisoners in your own solar system. Jake stood up and began pacing around the pool. We have to warn them. The colony's Earth, everyone. If they know what's coming, maybe they can prepare. Prepare how? The queen asked sadly. Your most advanced warships are like toys compared to what the galaxy can field. Your best weapons couldn't scratch the hull of a single alien dreadnought. Then we'll run, evacuate the colonies, hide until we can build better defenses. Where would you run? The galaxy is vast, but the Council controls most of it. There is nowhere to hide 40 million people. Jake stopped pacing and stared at the alien queen. Then why did you tell me? If there's no hope, why show me this? The queen was quiet for a long moment. Her 4 hands moved in complex patterns, and Jake realized she was nervous. Even this ancient, powerful being was afraid. Because why, she said finally, there is one possibility the Council has not considered. One chance that might save both our peoples. The images above the pool changed again. Now Jake was looking at human colonies, but these were different recordings, older ones. Tell me, Jake Morrison, do you know why your people really left Earth? Of course. To explore new worlds, to find resources and room for our growing population. That is the official story. But the real reason was different. Jake watched the recordings with growing confusion. These showed Earth not as the green, beautiful world he remembered from pictures, but as something else. A planet covered in storms and volcanic eruptions, cities being evacuated, massive ships lifting off carrying millions of refugees. Your people didn't leave Earth to explore, the queen said. They left because Earth was dying. Jake felt the ground shift under him. Everything he thought he knew about human history was wrong. The climate change was worse than your governments admitted, the queen continued. The ice caps weren't just melting, they were gone. The storms weren't just getting stronger, they were tearing continents apart. Your planet was becoming uninhabitable. But Earth is fine now. I've seen the recent reports. Because you fixed it. The Queen's voice held amazement. In 50 years, your people not only survived the death of their homeworld, they brought it back to life. You turned a dying planet into a garden again. The recordings showed the transformation. Jake watched human engineers redirect rivers and rebuild forests. Scientists who developed new ways to clean the air and water. Ordinary people working together to save their world. No other species has ever done this, the Queen said. When a homeworld dies, the species either dies with it or abandons it forever. Your people saved yours, Jake began to understand. You're saying humans aren't conquerors. You're survivors. And more than that, you're healers. You don't just adapt to hostile environments, you make them better. You don't just survive disasters, you prevent them from happening again. The images showed more examples. Human colonies that had taken barren worlds and turned them into paradises. Asteroid bases that had become beautiful cities among the stars. Even the mining operations looked more like art than industry. The Council sees only the rapid expansion and adaptability, the Queen said. They miss the most important part. Your people don't destroy, they create. They don't consume, they improve. But they won't listen to you. The Queen's expression grew bitter. My people lost credibility long ago. We were too quick to hide from humanity instead of studying you properly. The other species see us as cowards. Jake sat back down beside the pool. His head was spinning with everything he had learned. So what's this one chance you mentioned? The Queen leaned forward, her ancient eyes bright with desperate hope. First contact. What? If the Galactic Council could meet with humans directly, speak with them, see them as they really are instead of as monsters from their fears, they might change their minds. Jake shook his head. The fleet is already assembled. You said they're planning to attack in 6 months, which gives us exactly enough time to arrange a meeting. The Council has agreed to hear one final presentation before the attack begins. A last chance for anyone to prove that humanity should be spared. And you want to make that presentation? No, the Queen said quietly. I want you to make it. Jake stared at her. Me, I'm nobody. Just a cargo pilot. I don't know anything about diplomacy or politics. That's exactly why it has to be you. The Queen stood and walked to the crystal gardens growing on the walls. The Council expects to hear from queens and emperors and ancient powers. They expect speeches about civilization and philosophy. She touched one of the crystal flowers and it began to glow brighter. But you're not any of those things. You're exactly what humanity really is. An ordinary person who does extraordinary things when necessary. Someone who survives impossible situations and helps others do the same. Jake thought about his friend Ben, dead because he tried to protect his ship. He thought about the 40 million colonists who had no idea what was coming for them. He thought about Earth, beautiful and alive again because people like him had refused to give up. What would I have to do? The Queen turned back to him, and for the first time since he had met her, she smiled. Tell them the truth. Show them who humans really are. Convince 12 different species that humanity deserves to live. Jake took a deep breath. It was an impossible task. But then again, humans specialized in doing impossible things. When do we start? The journey to the Galactic Council took 2 weeks. Jake spent every waking hour preparing for the most important speech of his life. The Queen taught him about each species he would face, their cultures, their fears, their ways of thinking. The Council met on an ancient space station called the Heart of Stars. It was older than human civilization, built by a species that had died out long before Earth's first cities. The station was beautiful and terrifying, made of materials that seemed to bend light and gravity. As their ship approached, Jake could see the massive fleet assembled nearby. Thousands of warships from 12 different species, all waiting for the order to destroy humanity. Remember, the Queen said as they prepared to board the station, they expect you to fail. They want you to fail. It will make their decision easier. Jake nodded. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. I understand. The council chamber was a vast sphere floating in the center of the station. Representatives from the 12 species sat on platforms arranged around the walls. Each platform was designed for a different type of alien physiology. Some sat in chairs, others floated in bubbles of liquid, and a few hung from the ceiling like bats. In the center of the sphere was a small platform for speakers. That's where Jake would make his case. The Queen introduced him, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. Honored counselors, I present Jake Morrison of Earth. He will speak for humanity. A low murmur went through the chamber. Jake could hear multiple languages being translated in real time. He caught fragments. Just one human? So small. Looks harmless enough. Jake stepped onto the speaking platform. The chamber fell silent. He looked around at the assembled aliens. Some looked like the Queen's people, tall and graceful. Others were completely different. Creatures made of living crystal, beings of pure energy, things that hurt to look at directly. All of them were judging him. All of them had already decided that humanity should die. Jake took a deep breath and began to speak. My name is Jake Morrison. 3 weeks ago, I was flying a cargo ship full of medical supplies. I was just trying to do my job, get the medicine to people who needed it. I never thought I'd be standing here speaking for my entire species. He paused, looking around the chamber. Some of the aliens were leaning forward, curious about what this small human would say. You've been watching my people for 50 years. You've seen us spread across the stars, seen us survive things that should have killed us, and you're afraid. I understand that. If I saw a species doing what we've done, I'd be afraid too. A ripple of surprise went through the chamber. They hadn't expected him to admit fear was reasonable. But you've been watching us wrong. You see us as conquerors because you're looking at our expansion. You see us as monsters because you're looking at our survival rate. You've missed the most important thing about humanity. Jake gestured, and the chamber's display systems activated. Images appeared in the air around him, scenes from human colonies that the Queen had helped him prepare. This is New Hope Colony. When the first settlers arrived, the planet was a frozen wasteland. Look at it now. The images showed a world transformed. Green forests where there had been ice, cities that looked like gardens, children playing in parks under an artificial sun. The settlers didn't just survive on this world, they made it better. They created something beautiful where there had been nothing. More images appeared, asteroid mining operations that looked like art installations, underwater cities on ocean worlds that enhanced rather than destroyed the natural ecosystem, space habitats that were more beautiful than most natural worlds. This is what you've missed, Jake said. Humans don't just survive. We improve. We don't just adapt to hostile environments, we make them better for everyone. An alien with a voice like grinding stone interrupted. Improvements for humans. What about other species? Jake smiled. He had hoped for this question. I'm glad you asked. New images appeared. This is the preservation project on Kepler 7. When human colonists arrived, they found the ruins of an extinct alien civilization. Instead of building over it, they built around it. They turned the entire planet into a museum and research center. More images. This is the rescue operation at Vega Station. When a plague threatened to wipe out the Centauri refugees, human doctors worked for 2 years to develop a cure. They saved over 50,000 alien lives. Jake could see some of the counselors beginning to look uncertain. The images kept coming. New Shanghai Colony shares their agricultural advances with 7 different species. The miners at Titan Base have created artificial gravity technology that they give away for free. Earth itself has become a sanctuary for endangered species from across the galaxy. Propaganda, snarled an alien that looked like a walking tree. Carefully chosen examples to hide their true nature. Jake nodded. You're right. These are carefully chosen examples. But ask yourself this, why do these examples exist at all? If humans were the monsters you think we are, would there be any examples of us helping others? The chamber was quiet now. Jake could feel the mood shifting. You compare us to the harvesters, he continued, but the harvesters left nothing but death behind them. Look at what humans leave behind. Gardens where there were deserts, cities where there were ruins, hope where there was despair. Jake walked to the edge of his platform, looking directly at the council members. Yes, we expand fast. Yes, we survive things that kill other species, but we don't do it to conquer. We do it because we're running. Running from what? Asked a creature made of living water. Jake's voice grew soft. From loneliness. From the fear that we're alone in the universe. From the terror that we might be the only ones who care about making things better instead of just surviving. The Queen had told him this was his most important moment, the time to show them who humans really were. We spread across the stars because we're looking for friends. We survive impossible things because we refuse to give up hope. We make hostile worlds into gardens because we believe that beautiful things should exist, even if no one is there to see them. Jake looked around the chamber one more time. You're about to destroy 40 million people who never knew you existed. People who would have been honored to meet you, to learn from you, to share what they've learned with you. He paused. Is that really the legacy you want? To be remembered as the species who destroyed the gardeners? The chamber erupted in discussion. Different languages mixed together as the council members debated among themselves. Jake stood on his platform waiting. Finally, the discussions died down. An ancient alien that looked like a living constellation spoke for the council. Jake Morrison of Earth. You have given us much to consider. The council will deliberate. You will have our answer within 1 day. Jake bowed and left the platform. As he walked out of the chamber, he caught sight of the Queen. She was trying not to cry, but her ancient eyes were bright with tears. 24 hours later, Jake stood before the council again. The same ancient alien spoke. The council has decided. Operation Silent Dawn is cancelled. Instead, we will begin formal first contact procedures with humanity. The Queen's people will serve as intermediaries. Jake felt his knees go weak with relief. 40 million lives saved. Humanity welcomed into the galactic community instead of destroyed by it. But the alien wasn't finished. However, this decision comes with conditions. Humanity will be closely monitored. Any sign of aggressive expansion or hostile intent will result in immediate containment. Do you accept these terms on behalf of your species? Jake thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Yes, we accept. Later, as their ship headed back toward human space, Jake found the Queen standing before a window. Looking out at the stars, "Thank you," he said. She turned to him, and Jake was surprised to see that she was smiling. "Thank you, Jake Morrison. You showed them something I could never have shown them. You showed them hope." Jake joined her at the window. Somewhere out there, human colonies were going about their daily lives, never knowing how close they had come to destruction. What happens now? Now the real work begins, the Queen said. Building trust between species that have never met. Creating cooperation instead of fear. Making sure this peace lasts. Will it work? The Queen was quiet for a moment. I don't know, she said finally. But for the first time in 50 years, I believe it's possible. Jake nodded and looked out at the stars. They looked different now. Not empty and hostile, but full of possibilities. Full of friends he hadn't met yet. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. And that, Jake thought, was worth all the risk in the galaxy. In the distance, alien ships were already heading toward human space, carrying diplomats instead of weapons. The first official meeting between humanity and the galactic community would happen soon. Jake Morrison, cargo pilot from Earth, had just changed the course of galactic history. And he couldn't wait to see what happened next.